What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, but before I get into the news, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream here on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so join if you can. It's always a fun time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. I also will be briefly talking about the newest updates here to the whole tariff situation at the end of this video, so if it doesn't upset you to hear the info on that, definitely stay tuned for that at the end here. But as far as some of the new vehicles that came out here this week, Toyota Gazoo Racing had an event at the Grand Prix of Long Beach this week where they revealed 3 exciting new things here. And the first one is the most notable here, and that is the US version of the Supra Mark V Final Edition that we're going to be getting. We saw other parts of the world getting the same kind of thing, and now we have all the info on the North American version of it here. So it'll be a 2026 model year vehicle and will be offered alongside the regular versions of the Supra that you still will be able to buy for this last year of production. And unfortunately, the rumors of more power or a GRMN version weren't true, with the final edition getting no extra power from that BMW B58 motor, which I'm guessing is probably BMW's fault. Maybe they didn't let them have, the good stuff, but regardless, B58 is still great, but, sad we're not getting any extra power here. There are some other improvements, though, including new wheels, bigger Brembo brakes, a retuned rear diff tuning and software for less understeer, which is something I didn't think the Supra ever had a problem with, honestly, but less understeer. And there's also retuned adaptive dampers and steering, stronger front stabilizer bar, new camber angles, stronger bushings for the front control arms, and stronger mounts for the rear subframe, and an underbody brace. Aero is also improved with a carbon fiber rear spoiler, front wheel arch flaps, and higher front tire spats. This all adds up to better handling, of course, and the car has other carbon fiber accents and red stitching inside, and a GT4 style pack provides 2 exclusive matte colors, Burnout and Undercover. There's also the GR graphics on the side that you get, and matte carbon for the rear spoiler and red mirror caps. That pack won't be available until the fall, but the other 2026 Supras will begin arriving at dealers this spring, actually, and they're going to be priced starting at $58,035 to start, including destination, with premium trims going up to $61,185 and a big jump up to $69,085 for that final edition, of which only 1,300 will be made for North America. So actually, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised it's not quite as rare as I was fearing, but really great that they are making a good amount of them. And lastly, Toyota says production of this 5th generation Supra will end in the spring of 2026. And so this one I gotta give a toast to. Obviously GR Supra is fantastic. I've sung its praises since the beginning. I was very fortunate to be on the launch event for that car and talk to the engineer about it, and it's an incredible car. I've lapped them around track. I've spent weeks with them. Hopefully I'll be able to do one last final video on the Supra here maybe this year, as a send off. But really sad to see it go. Obviously they have said it's not the end of the line for Supra. We will see a new version here some point in the future, but in the meantime, final hurrah for the Supra here, and so it deserves a toast. So I have some new Balvenie Scotch whiskey here. So I got my lowball glass, Matt Maran Motoring lowball glass. You can get these on mattmaranmotoring.com as well if you'd like to drink along here in the future. This will be my first time trying this as well, but so yeah, it's a great car. I know obviously people complained initially, oh, it's not completely Toyota and all this, but fantastic car, and I think the car enthusiast world was better as a result of it. And it's going to be sad to see it go. It might be the last 6-cylinder Supra. We're seeing all these hybridized turbo 4s for GR in their future, it seems. So, it was a BMW 6-cylinder, but at least it was a 6-cylinder. We might not have that in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, cheers to the Mark V Supra. What a fantastic car. And that's very good. Anyway, GR has also revealed the 2026 GR86 Yuzu Special Edition, which gives you this Yuzu yellow paint as a nod to the first Scion FRS release series, which I really appreciate as a person that was, enjoying those back then. It's really cool. They're kind of doing a throwback there. There's also yellow stitching inside as well. The press release makes no mention of it, but there's also a new body kit for the car that we haven't seen before. The consumer-facing site suggests that it's an accessory pack, so it might not come on all of these, but I haven't seen this body kit before. If you've seen it before, let me know in the comments below, but that seems new, and I think actually looks really cool and reminds me of that release series 1 of the FRS and the body kit that had. It really is a similar kind of style, and I'm really digging it. I didn't think I'd be nostalgic of first-gen Scion FRSs just yet, but I'm really liking the way it looks here on the new one. But you also see that gives you those black accents and a more sculpted rear bumper, and that also shows off that nicer GR exhaust that apparently, I guess, comes on this, unless that's an extra accessory as well. I'm not sure. The press release didn't specify what all actually comes on this and what doesn't as far as these other things. Yeah, looks great. I'm excited to see that it's getting an exhaust and all that, and an quad exhaust at that too. And I'm also, also liking this Yuzu edition. I mean, looks great in yellow, I think, personally. And assuming that this, body pack is just for the Yuzu and not for GR86s in general, I'm guessing we're not going to get a refresh because, this is 2026 model year. We're 4 years in now. You would think this would be the prime time to do a refresh. So I'm not sure, what's going on with that. But otherwise, this Yuzu edition is just like any other special color GR86 we've seen in years past, coming equipped with the performance package and will be arriving at dealers here this fall. And like past ones like the Toronto edition we have for 2025, this one will only be made in a quantity of 860 total for the US market. And there's no pricing for these yet, but I'm just happy to see the GR86 continue to stay in production. And so yeah, really great to see that. The last reveal from GR here at this event was a new GR Corolla development vehicle that Toyota says is expected to have improved aerodynamic performance, a bump in torque, and unique tuning. So the pictures also reveal new fender vents, hood vents, and a new rear spoiler that looks pretty wild there. And so they say more info will be coming this fall on that one. So stay tuned for that. Moving on from the Toyotas here, Hyundai and Genesis had some pretty big reveals here this week, a bunch of different things. And so the wildest one was the full reveal of that little Insteroid concept that I showed the teaser of last week. It's a crazy performance version of the humble little Inster EV that is available in Korea. And while we now see the whole thing, we still have no mechanical details on it whatsoever, other than them saying it has a drift mode. So that's it. I'm not sure if they stopped, the IONIQ 5N powertrain in this thing or what, but obviously this isn't a preview of a production model. I'm not sure why they made this. Guess it was just, something they did for fun, but, happy to see it. Fun concept, and maybe we'll get more details on that in the future. For an actual production vehicle, Hyundai has revealed the 2026 IONIQ 6 refresh, and with it reveals a new N-line trim as well as teasing also the back end of the full-blown N version that is coming in July now, they say. So we got a release date for that, and even if it's just copy and pasting the IONIQ 5N stuff, putting it in the, better handling sedan lower body of the IONIQ 6, that could be in the running for my favorite car to come out this year. We'll see. And, even just what we see at the back end there looks great already. I cannot wait for more. But let me know what you think about the Refresh 6. But I think that it follows the same great changes we saw for the Sonata with those slim headlights. And I think it'll only help sales. The back end is also more streamlined, getting rid of that bulkier rear spoiler for a smaller one and a smoother profile there. Inside, it's also a great improvement as well, with more buttons than before, nicer materials according to Hyundai as well, and a third spoke for the steering wheel, and a bigger climate control display as well. And this is the Korean market version, which is why you see the camera side mirrors that sadly still aren't legal here in the US. We don't get any mechanical details for this one either just yet, but I think it's safe to bet it'll probably get all the same mechanical changes we saw on the refreshed IONIQ 5, which means the NACS port, the slightly bigger battery capacity, and all that. But hopefully we get confirmation of all that soon. I'm not sure when we'll see the US version. Usually, we're several months behind all the Korean debuts by the time it finally makes news here in the States. So we'll see. But anyway, really happy to see that. A really nice refresh for a car that honestly, I personally like the looks. I know it was very polarizing to a lot of people. I thought it looked great. This just makes it look even better. And really great to see that. Genesis has debuted here the Gran Coupe and Gran Convertible concepts, which basically are coupe and convertible versions of the G90 and still just concepts. But dealers did say a while back at a dealer meeting last year, I think, or even the year before, that these ultra high-end Genesis models were coming actually, for dealers. And because these ones look so production ready, I wouldn't be surprised to see these ones actually go into production. These are definitely the most production looking of all these Genesis X concepts we've seen in the past, and this one is a little more believable that they just basically take the G90 stuff. So the interiors are also a little nicer than a regular G90 with a curved double screen display that now gets a leather wrapped hood over top of the part of it, which I think is actually a nice little change. And there's also unique leather colors and wood trims, and I guess time will tell with these, but hopefully they do make it to production. I think they both look fantastic, very grand and expensive, and it would be a really nice new addition to the high-end market, which I think is going to be a very good segment to play as we see more and more new car buyers being wealthier individuals. So anyway, interesting to see that. And the last new Hyundai vehicle reveal was the new Nexo, which seems to be heavily inspired by the Pontiac Aztek, at least for the sides and the back. It looks kind of cool, but if you don't like the Aztek's rear quarter shot, you're probably not going to like this either, I'm guessing. It's about 3 inches longer and 0.2 inches wider than the old Nexo, but is on an identical wheelbase length. And inside, there's some familiar Hyundai design traits like the curved double 12.3-inch screens, but the tufted dash there on the passenger side is a really cool touch. And the first time I think I've seen something like that since, probably the luxury cars of the 1970s and 1980s had that kind of thing. Obviously, it's not going quite as far as those, but I actually think that looks really cool. I'm excited to see that. And the back end is also pretty luxurious with rear seats that can even be ventilated, they say, and there's more space back there as well. It's still powered by a hydrogen fuel cell, of course, but it's got a bigger tank now to hold enough hydrogen to power you for 435 miles now before needing a 5-minute refuel, assuming you can find a hydrogen station, that is. And you can at least get to those hydrogen stations a little faster now, with the vehicle getting a bump from 181 horsepower to 255 horsepower now, dropping the 0 to 60 time from 9.2 seconds to 7.8 seconds. So, still no hot rod, but certainly better. And they also say it's a global model. And in the past, the Nexo was sold in California. The way things are going these days, though, I wouldn't count on this one coming to the States. Maybe, other places that are open to hydrogen, like Japan, maybe could get it. We'll see. But, anyway, cool to see that nonetheless. And the last thing that Hyundai revealed at this event was their new Pleos Connect infotainment system here, which we don't have very many pictures and not a whole lot of actual details on how it works, but it looks to put just about everything into the infotainment system, following Tesla and Volvo. And it's a weird move considering multiple Hyundai executives have said over the past year here that they recognize that people want buttons and knobs still, and that they are planning on keeping buttons and knobs in their interiors. And then they pull off one of these screens that is the same kind of, again, lack of buttons and knobs like we are complaining about from everybody else. So it's like they're saying one thing and then doing another thing here, because they're saying that this isn't just some fun idea or something. They say that this is going to be launching in the second quarter of 2026, and it's going to be using the Android Automotive Operating System and also have an AI assistant called Leo AI. So they say it'll be in about 20 million vehicles before the end of this decade. There's no other details or, again, pictures of how it works or anything like that, so I guess that'll all come here over the next year or so. But I can't say I'm excited about this, and just, again, seems strange considering everything they've said. we'll see. Hopefully there's still a bunch of buttons and knobs go along with this screen, but a little concerned about that, and hopefully Hyundai doesn't, go in the wrong direction there with the interior. But another new interior we got to see here this week was the interior of the 2026 Honda Prelude. So in past looks at the Prelude, we've only seen the exterior. It's been kind of weird with the rollout, with Japan getting a bunch of exclusives, and then the rest of the, media landscape being completely silent as far as what's going on with the Prelude here. So now we can see, that it has basically the same center area as the Integra, except the buttons, that you have there in the shifter area instead of the physical shifter that the Integra and the Civic have. And also the steering wheel and the seats do seem to be unique to the Prelude for now. And those are certainly nice for sure. So the same Japanese reviewer that already got to drive a prototype of the Prelude, he's the one that showed us, how the manual shifting works here, that they're going to be doing with the Sport S mode for this, and all that. I covered that again last year, but so that Japanese reviewer here, his username here is Enthusiast Car Guide. They've given a tour here of this new interior now in this video that they showed off, that shows off the back seat as well as the rear hatch area, which looks like it's going to be a nice large hatch, which is great to see that. And again, I'm still kind of hoping we get some type of Integra Coupe to go along with this Honda. We'll see, because then it would really be in the right kind of vein of the old Integra Coupes there with that. We'll see. Also, still keep my fingers crossed for a Type R version, because it sounds like this one's not going to be super sporty. And so that's basically all the new news this week. But if you missed all the other updates on the Prelude in the past, I'll briefly just summarize. It's been reported that the wheelbase is going to be slightly shorter than Civic, but that the track should be wider, and also have the front suspension and adaptive dampers from the Civic Type R. So definitely, a little bit of a step up in the handling department and a little more lively than a Civic. But, sounds like it's, again, not going to have a Type R version to start. Hopefully that'll come later eventually. They're not going to launch with a Type R version, so hopefully we do get a Type R eventually. And it also sounds like now the newest reports are saying that the US version of the Prelude will arrive here in the States before the end of this year. Again, all things being steady, and again, all bets are off currently, but planning on having it here by the end of the year. And yeah, just make sure you don't expect it to be any faster than a Civic Hybrid, because it seems like that's basically going to be the same powertrain we have here in the Prelude. And, so that's going to be all you can really hope for there as far as performance. But still should be great. Again, even if it's just a Civic Coupe in a way with, a different name, still happy to see a two-door. Anyone making a two-door is always good news, in my opinion. And it's so great to see that. And Volvo's board surprisingly voted to change CEOs here this week, kicking out Jim Rowan, who was the CEO for the past 3 years and led the company to record sales and record profits last year. Sounds like an A-plus report card in my mind, but they're replacing him with the former CEO who retired because he was like 71 when he retired. He's now 74. Håkan Samuelsson, who again was CEO for the prior 10 years of Volvo, and will only serve for 2 more years here until a successor is found. And there isn't any reason given for why they're making this change, just saying Volvo will be best served by leadership with deep industrial experience, deep knowledge of our group, and a proven ability to execute in challenging environments. So I guess Rowan didn't possess any of those traits. Seems kind of like some shade thrown there. I don't know, but best of luck to them. I know Rowan, it sounds like he was from the tech world, so maybe they were annoyed with things that he wasn't understanding in the car world. But I mean, he was there for 3 years, did well by all, corporate metrics, it seems. Seems like a head scratcher there, but, again, we just saw Lucid also swapping CEOs and, some others that are, shaking things up. So who knows, what'll happen there. But anyway, very interesting to see that. And lastly, let's talk about the tariffs again briefly. So nothing has changed as far as car tariffs go since last week. We haven't seen anything recanted. We haven't seen anything as far as the U.S. side. There's no updates on that. So they are now officially in effect, although the tariff on foreign auto parts, again, won't start until May 3rd. So for this month, anything that is built in the U.S. is actually completely exempt. Again, that'll go away once they start tariffing foreign parts content next month. But if you want the full lowdown on the auto tariffs in particular, I covered that for 11 minutes in last week's update. I'll link that at the end of this update here if you want to get into all the nitty gritty of, hashing all that stuff out. And so the highlight, though, is still 25% import on all, or tariff on all import vehicles, and those, made with U.S. parts content will have that slight reduction. So it'll depend on, how much of the car is built with U.S. parts. Even if it's built elsewhere, it can have some discounts there. Also, though, now the new developments here for this week, the one notable development here is that Canada has announced their own retaliatory 25% tariff on U.S. vehicles imported into Canada. So, it's going to be, again, this initial hit of not only is it going to, make it harder for everyone producing stuff here in the States as well because of, again, those tariffs on those foreign parts, but now you're also going to make it so that anything built in the States trying to, send that stuff up to Canada now is going to hit with huge tariffs. So even U.S. built stuff is going to be hurt. I mean, it's already going to be hurt again by the parts stuff since nothing is 100% parts content from the U.S. But now going to be hit with, Canada buys a lot of cars built in the States. And this is a meaningful retaliation. And, so... yeah, apologies to all my Canadian friends out there that enjoy American vehicles, because now, you're going to also have to suffer along with us with these higher tariffs on that stuff. And it's just, just sucks the way all this is. It's also going to lead to less jobs and all that. I don't blame Canada for them by any means, but it's just, sad that, it's just affecting Canadians who, again, did not ask for this. And anyway, very predictably, though, another tariff thing here, Stellantis announced this week that because of all of these tariffs, they're pausing production at the Windsor, Ontario plant, which is the largest employer in Windsor, Ontario, by the way. And that's the plant that builds the Pacifica and the Charger. They're pausing that factory for 2 weeks for now, temporarily laying off 4,500 workers there. And then the Mexican factory that makes the Compass and the Wagoneer S, that will also be idled for the rest of April. And as a result, 900 workers are currently, or temporarily at least for now, losing their jobs here in the States because their jobs support all those factories in Canada and Mexico. Because again, parts made here, then sent down there for assembly, or sent up to Canada for assembly, and so, you screw Canada and Mexico, and you're screwing yourself because you're gonna, have all these other supply chain things that doesn't seem to be accounted for here in these plans. All these supply chains, they're gonna go down too, and those are American jobs. So that's no surprise there whatsoever. And the Canadian trade union, Unifor, said Trump is about to learn how interconnected the North American production system is the hard way, with auto workers paying the price for that lesson. Even though hilariously the UAW supported the tariffs, I feel like that has aged like milk. And so we'll see if they pivot at all. But anyway, again, just really sad again for the actual people that are going to be the first to be affected by these tariffs. Of course, we all will be in time here, but sad to see jobs already being lost here literally the same day these things are announced. And so anyway, for the last news story here, Hyundai CEO surprisingly said this week that they will not increase prices due to the tariffs, electing to absorb those extra costs, at least for now. I have to admit, I was not expecting this. So this obviously can't be sustainable for the long term. Hyundai did say just last week they are expanding one of their plants to do more production, and they've been investing heavily in the past decade in American production. So they feel like they're pretty well positioned, and some of the stuff that is built in the States, certainly won't have super hard tariffs hit on them. So it's a little easier for those models in particular, but for imported stuff, it sounds like they're going to eat it here, at least temporarily. This could give them a huge pricing advantage, because I doubt that most other companies can afford to suck this up. Maybe some of them can. They are going to be cutting costs in other ways, though, because, again, it can't just be nothing here. So according to a dealer bulletin obtained by Cars Direct, Hyundai will be ending their free 3-year maintenance plan you got on every new Hyundai that you bought. So that's going to be starting with the 2026 model year. You'll no longer get those free oil changes and all the other your regularly scheduled maintenance you usually get for the first 3 years on a Hyundai. They will still, of course, honor the free maintenance plans for any buyers of 2020 to 2025 model year vehicles that have already gotten that and are grandfathered in, of course. But they said that basically the costs of this program just kind of got out of control, and now again being crunched, I'm sure was maybe the straw that broke the camel's back to say, okay, we're dropping this program here. So every other car company still seems to be kind of strategizing, figuring out what to do. All the other countries in the world, everyone's also waiting to see how they're going to retaliate. And I think they're going to be very selective with how they do things. So it's all just going to be kind of waiting for the dust to settle. Everyone else will retaliate. China's already said they will, and many others as well. Obviously, everyone, aside from the uninhabited islands that supposedly are also being tariffed when there's not a single person exporting anything on them. So maybe they won't retaliate, but everyone else will retaliate. And we'll have to see. And I think, car companies have to wait to see, okay, well, what is the EU going to do? What is everybody else going to do? And then make their plans of how they're going to do this. So in the meantime, yes, I'm sure they will probably continue with business as normal, and also secretly hope that Trump reverses course here. But I think we might not see immediate changes aside from, again, layoffs and pausing things. But other than that, hopefully we'll see everyone kind of come up with plans and cooler heads prevail here to try and work around this the best they can. And we'll see how it all plays out. But very interesting to hear all of that. And lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have a few new members that joined here this week, and I first want to thank the notorious CRG for joining during last week's live stream on their own. So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And I hope you're enjoying the membership perks there so far. It was great chatting with you there on the live stream last Sunday, and looking forward to chatting with you this week as well if you can make it. And I also want to thank Grand Admiral Thrawn and Kyle for their generous membership gifting here during last week's live stream as well. I really appreciate the support. I know all those members that were able to join and rejoin also really appreciate your generosity as well. And so I want to give a big welcome here to those new members that were gifted memberships, including Switch Lanes and Shell Shock Resale. So thanks so much for joining in here, and hope you consider sticking around, and I hope you enjoy the membership perks here so far. Definitely be sure again to tune in on Sunday if you can make it, where those members always do get that priority answering in those live streams. And if you'd also like that priority answering, as well as all the other perks that come with being a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. One more drink for Tariffs. Take care.